This podcast represents the opinions of the hosts of the Laugh Cry Club and guests on the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice and is for informational purposes only. And because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we share is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors.
This is a number 2 for me.
What? You drink coffee too?
I do. I know. Coffee. It's a whole story. Coffee, but there's a whole story behind it. I can't seem. The only coffee that I really love right now is like a Starbucks Americano. And so
it's like basically an espresso shot.
Coffee maker. It's still off. I need to tweak it.
We're talking about Red Bull. We're talking about, to our listeners, we're talking about drinking Red Bull. And so Rebecca is.
Are we recording?
Oh, are we?
Sure.
Are we? Let's just start. Let's cut that. Okay. Are we?
No,
let's start right now because we need to introduce Rebecca. Or Joy, kick us off.
I forgot to introduce us last week. I'm Joy.
I'm Rebecca.
I'm Chelsea.
This is the Laugh Cry Club, and you're just entering the room as we're just talking about Red Bulls because Chelsea's drinking a Red Bull, Rebecca's drinking a Red Bull. And then I was like, hey, Rebecca, do you also drink coffee? And you were like, it's complicated. So we need to hear the coffee story. Like, why is it complicated? Is it complicated because you don't like the taste of coffee, or are you very specific around what kind of coffee?
No, I love coffee, but lately I would say probably the last 6 months, the taste has been off.
Did you have COVID?
I've had COVID twice in my in my life, but not recently. Last time was a year ago.
Isn't that what happens?
Your taste
all
goes
jacked?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys want to know a weird thing about taste too? Is Steve, because of chemo, it messes up his taste buds. So he drinks a lot of lemonade. Apparently lemonade helps with the palate and it helps his food taste normal. So Rebecca, maybe you should have a lemonade and then ease yourself back into coffee.
You know what's interesting is I had a dog sitter here recently and they were drinking the Simply Limeade.
Yum.
Actually, I love that now.
Yeah, the limeade is good. I love a lime.
I was like, add a little vodka to that. And that's a nice pull drink.
I have a really good vodka limeade story that I'll share with us at some point. A Southern vodka limeade story.
I love that you do all the pool drinks. You're like, that could be on a float trip, a pool beverage. Have you done one of those descalers? Because I have to descale my coffee machine in order for it to taste.
Same.
Yes, we've done that. We recently,
so
in the last 2 months, got a whole new thing.
Okay, listeners, if you have a tip and trick for Rebecca getting back in coffee so we can get her off of the one Red Bull, I think we're good, but it is only 10:55 a.m. and she's on Red Bull too. Any tips or tricks to get her back on coffee? Let us know. Should we go into our laugh cries?
Let's do it.
Yeah, welcome. Well,
welcome.
I do want to give like a little bit of an agenda too, so people can kind of be aware of the topic this week, just in case. We're going to do our laugh cries, and it is Suicide Awareness Month. So September has Suicide Awareness Day, Suicide Awareness Week. So the whole month we're really just shining a light on talking about this epidemic and really wanting to educate. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in terms of how we do assessments, share some kind of personal insights, and also some statistics and just things that might be helpful. So I just want to give a heads up to people who might be sensitive to that topic to take care when listening. And also, encourage that we are trying to talk about this from an educational standpoint. We're coming from a helpful standpoint. So that is my caveat. All right, kicking us off for the laughs and cries. Chelsea.
I am going to nominate Joy this week for the laugh cry of the week.
All right. Woo! I had a lot of laughs and a lot of cries this week. So as I mentioned in a previous episode, I went to California this past weekend to watch my uncle graduate with his hearing dog. And just going to Oceanside, first of all, is very nostalgic for me because it's where the regional office is for Canine Companions. Everybody knows by now I'm a huge volunteer, very involved in that community. And so going to Oceanside means, I was there for team training, which is what they call when you get a service dog, because I got my therapy dog there. We turn in our dogs there when they're done with training. So I've been there a lot and I have a lot of connections there. And it's just like, it's kind of like my Disneyland because it's dogs and it's the agency that I love so much. And I love to go on that campus. So seeing my uncle be there was this huge full circle moment. He was so sweet. Like I couldn't stop crying because my uncle's very sensitive and emotional. He's just an emotional guy. So we got there Thursday. We met with them we met them for dinner Thursday night, and he just hugged me. He looked me in the eye and he just said, "Thank you." Like grabbed my shoulders and was like, "Thank you. Thank you." Like, and just had tears in his eyes. And I was just so like taken over with emotion. Like, this is something that will truly change his life in ways that, we can't even explain. And so that was like our cry. I had many cries because watching him graduate made me cry, but just seeing how much he gets it now, because if you're not involved in this program or you don't know much about service dogs, you obviously aren't going to like get it. You're not going to get how impactful these animals are in people's lives. It was just so heartwarming to watch him go through this process. Also because his trainer was my trainer when I graduated with my therapy dog. And I don't want to get into the weeds of what that means, but they have different categories of dogs, and people who work in medical facilities can apply for what they call a facility dog, where you're taking the dog in to treat patients, which is what I did. So I went through that same program. Well, similar. Obviously, he's getting a hearing dog. It's totally different training, but I had the same trainer. So I was like, Sarah, I got to see her, but just that fact that I went through that program 10 plus years ago and now he's here doing it. And it was just so cool. It was just,
sounds amazing.
Words can't explain. So that was like heartwarming cries. And then my laugh was also in the same trip. I went with my mom and my childhood friend, Cindy. I've known her since I was born, pretty much. We lived next door to each other since babies. So she's one of those friends that you've known your whole life. Very, very special friend. And those friends, Chelsea, you've mentioned before, where like you get together and you just laugh so much. Well, this one time, I'll have to post this video. We're in this Airbnb, and California doesn't have not every home has AC. Okay. It's just it's a kind of beach town. It's kind of like you open the windows, it's ocean air, breezy, but it was pretty hot. In the summer, these days, things are getting pretty warm. So we get in the house and the windows were all closed. So we're opening up all the windows. Every single time I go to Oceanside, I overdress. For whatever reason, I just think it's going to be cooler than it is. So I had on these clothes that I was like, oh, I'm so hot. So I was like trying to like get the right level of layers on because I was so warm. And my friend comes down and she's recording me because I had found in the freezer that they had an eye mask and these like little frozen eye pads, that you put on your eyes for puffy eyes. And I put on the eye mask, like I looked like Robin from Batman and Robin. So I had on the eye mask and I was taking these ice packs and I was putting them on my stomach and under my armpits. And she was videoing me doing this and we were just laughing so hard. So I'll post the video of that because I was like, I'm so hot. I was so desperate. So I was putting like every ice pack on my body that I could. I had a good laugh at that.
That is so funny.
I highly recommend it. It was very effective.
I actually saw that video on an Instagram post of yours.
Oh, you did?
Because I secretly stalk you on the weekends. But anyway, yeah, I saw that video and all your heartwarming like photos of your weekend. And I saw that Cadet was on the wall.
Cadet was on the wall.
One of your
so
previous
Cadet was Cadet was the first
raised.
dog we raised.
Yes.
And she became a hearing dog. Yeah. And she made it to like, there's this huge poster of her on the wall. And it was so cool. And he stayed in the room, like right across, because they live on campus. And he stayed right across the door. He stayed in the dorm that was right across that poster. It was like,
what?
So many worlds colliding. Yeah.
What?
Okay,
Wow.
I have to circle back to something. I love this whole entire story, but where I'm thrown off is, was this a random, like it could have been a rando's ice mask and ice finger?
Yeah. It was a randos. It was like it was just at the Airbnb, and I opened the freezer because I was like, I was opening the fridge, and sometimes when you're hot, I just kind of like get the breeze from the fridge. But I opened the freezer and I saw that, and I was like, ooh, and I put it on, and then I put the pads on my. So whoever's going to get those is going to get like, I had it like this under my armpits, like.
Or Joy, think about who previously had those on their body. Thanks for pointing that out, Chelsea. I'm really concerned about how
I know. I'm glad you pointed that out.
I'm not concerned at all. I'm so proud because in episode 1, Joy and Rebecca were like, I'm introverts. I'm never going to be getting into somebody's business or other stuff. But since we've talked about, what was it, double dutching with randos? There's been a lot of random encounters.
Chelsea, you're bringing it out in us.
I'm so happy. Can we, I'm going to have to nominate Rebecca because I just want to keep laughing. So Rebecca, I mean, I'll cry too, but this is cracking me up.
Yeah. I'll start with the cry first. So, and I won't stick to it very long, but I got word last week. So my mom has been through a heck of a ringer. So last week, sometime she fell. She just like totally passed out and hit her head. So then I guess that Saturday, my dad took her to the ER and they waited in the emergency room for like 8 hours. You all know how that is on a weekend. It's terrible. Trying to get some scans, make sure she didn't really, break anything or whatnot. So did that. Then a couple of days later, she gets test positive for COVID that she picked up at the ER. And so everybody, it's the new strain is like really terrible. So you definitely don't want to get it. But so she tested positive for COVID. And then I get a call from my dad, which I was like, oh, I'm getting ready to eat dinner. My dad's calling me. That's interesting because he never calls. So yeah, he called to tell me that my mom was in the ICU and her sodium levels were extremely low. And I know how serious low sodium levels can be because I've had a client of mine that was in the hospital, had to be resuscitated twice because they had flatlined. And so I know it's very scary. It's very serious. And so anyway, that was my big cry.
That's so scary.
Yeah, it's really scary. She's doing better. She's still in ICU. Because with sodium levels, you can only raise it like 6 points over 24 hours because if you do, you get brain swelling and seizures. And so you had to be really careful with it. And so hopefully soon she will be moved to another room. She is on the mend and feeling better, but the whole thing's just really scary. And it's, it sucks. Yeah. Medical emergencies suck. So yeah. She's hopefully going to get better and she's, she has her phone back now. So she's been texting. So that's good.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So my laugh has to do with, you ever get sent to like a lab, like one of those labs somewhere to get blood work drawn. So I go. Mm-hmm. And I crack myself up sometimes because I realize that I'm probably a lot like my dad, that I like chat people up. And
randos.
I do. I just will chat a rando up. I don't know why. But, the lady's coming to draw my blood. I'm like, oh, I didn't even feel that at all. So I'm like complimenting her. I'm like, that's really great. And so she's chatting to me and because she looked like she was not having the best day. And I was like, yeah, the nurse at my doctor's office always jabs me so hard and it hurts so bad. And I always feel like she's going through the other side of the vein. And I'm like, oh, now you're in my ligaments. Like, this is really painful. And so she's laughing. She's like, oh, you're real funny. Haha. And then she's like, come here at 4:45 on a Friday and you might get that here too. I was like, oh, point taken. Don't show up when you're getting ready to close to get your blood drawn.
Yep. That is so funny.
I was like, okay.
Oh my gosh. Did she just admit she stabs people?
She did. I was like, wow. I'm like, well, I am a therapist. I guess you can tell me everything, but we're technically not on the clock here. But
But how was your blood draw?
It was perfect. Like I was complimenting
lovely.
her. Like, yeah, I didn't feel it at all. It was excellent. Great
a compliment, and then there was a warning. She was like, you're getting rewarded for coming here early, but if you come later, I'm going to stick this needle in you in a way that's going to regret it.
Don't worry. I am not that person to show up at like right when the restaurant's closing and demand to be seated and ordered because all the servers in the kitchen really don't like you. And don't show up at the store 5 minutes before closing and linger. Don't do it. be respectful.
Unless I think the only exception would be unless somebody owns the store directly and they're staying late and you're buying a shit ton of stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
That could
Yes.
be, and maybe bringing something fun like a glass of champagne. I did have that once at a bikini shop in Catalina. There was a woman, she owned the shop. Yeah, in Catalina
Rebecca's
Island.
face. Rebecca had to register that for a second. You just said 3 things that were like a bikini. What?
Okay.
Champagne and a bikini
I was
shop.
in Catalina Island and I needed a new bikini, and the bikini shop was getting ready to close. And it was a bikini shop that this woman owned. I can't remember what her name is, but it was a very fun name. It was like a Fiona or something like that. I can't remember her name, but anyways, she fit the bathing suit. Like she found the bathing suits for you and she did like all the fitting for you. It was like and so she loved it and we spent a lot of money and then we had champagne and she was happy I was her last customer. So that's the exception.
That's a primo bikini shop, I guess. I didn't know there were just shops for bikinis.
On an island.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Chelsea, you're up next.
Okay, so my cry is a happy cry. So Miles is learning how to drive, and have been tricking him to spend more time with me. So he's 15. So Friday night, he's like,
What's your car's name again?
Betty. I have a giant Lincoln Town car. It was like my dream car for years. I could go on a story. Anyways, Betty's my favorite car that I ever had. So Miles is like, can you come get me? And then can we go for our drive? And I was like, we can absolutely go for a drive if you'll go to the beach with me. And so on Friday night, my sweet boy drove us to the beach. We had like the best beach walk together. He was throwing shells like across in the water. You know, you can kind of make them, what's that called? You like
Skip.
He was making him skip. I was skipping, for real skipping. We just had the best time. And I just really, those moments make me tear up because I cherish them so much. And Miles was born a preemie. He had a brain bleed, very traumatic birth. And he's just our miracle son. And anyways, it warms my heart. It makes me cry in the best way possible. My laugh was a rando this morning. So I read this thing on social media and somebody was saying, my therapist said, with everything you do, I'm summarizing, is this an act of love? So if I'm eating this food, is that an act of love to myself? If I'm buying this thing, am I doing this out of the most loving way? Those are my words, the most loving, compassionate way. So I was like, I need to add more vegetables to my diet. I haven't been eating enough of them. So I stopped by Walmart because it's like the closest, drop the kids at school, and they have like a nice grocery. Gulf Shores Walmart, I will vouch for. Other Walmarts, not so much. But Gulf Shores is really nice to have a great grocery section. So I go in to get healthy stuff, all this healthy stuff I want to give my body love. And I'm walking out and there's a pair of random shoes in the parking lot. And I'm like, there's a lady who works there with her Walmart thing on. She's like kicking these shoes across the parking lot. So I was like, what's up with those shoes? And she's like, I don't know. There's just like, people just leave stuff in the parking lot. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, what kind of stuff? So she's telling me some things that people leave. We're like laughing. And I'm like, well, what's like the weirdest thing? Like you've like come on the morning shift. Like what's the weirdest thing you've seen? She's like, well, I have seen quite a few men's underwear and women's underwear in the Walmart parking lot.
Oh my God.
That's the number one makeout spot in Gulf Shores.
What's happening in Gulf Shores, Alabama in the Walmart parking lot? Like Walmart here is so nice. We have no homeless people here. I'm like, who is taking off their underwear and leaving them? Anyways, her and I were just like crying, laughing. Like we couldn't stop. I'm like loading the car with my spinach and hummus and just crying. I loved it.
What if people buy underwear at Walmart and they get too excited about their new underwear that they just have to put it on in the parking lot?
Who does that?
I don't know.
Have you ever like gone to like a underwear place and be like, I love these underwear so much. I want to wear these Victoria's Secret underwear home. Can you bag my others? Who does that? Actually, that would be the funniest thing ever. I think I might go to the mall this weekend and try it.
Don't you dare.
Oh my God. Okay, don't you dare. I'm saying I triple dog dare you, Rebecca.
Oh my God. So great. Like you just, but like, yeah.
Let's think about the Walmart underwear. It's like,
they have to have cameras. They got to see where that comes from.
She didn't seem really bothered. She just
so
was
funny.
kicking the shoes to the side. of the parking lot.
Yeah.
What kind of shoes were they?
Actually, they were like some pair of black tennis shoes, like running shoes that didn't look bad. Like they looked like they couldn't have been that old. It was very strange, especially because there's no, like in California, Walmart is like, you're taking your chances. You might go there on a Saturday
Sure.
and people are in the air conditioning section. Like a lot of homeless people are in there just to cool down. There's a lot of stuff happening in the Walmart parking lot, at least where I used to live.
Yeah.
This is like really nice here.
Any of the Walmarts around here, I try to avoid.
Same.
I have to go there to pick up one of my dogs. He's a 13-year-old lap, and I have to go there to pick up a prescription for him because his vet insurance or our pet insurance will only go through the Walmart pharmacy, like to cover it. And I hate
that's
going
such a
there
pain because they don't have a drive-through.
Oh, I hate it. And it's like, luckily, I think we're going to like, when we move, we can kind of like change locations, but I dread it every time they like text me. It's like, your prescription for JT is ready. I'm like, ugh. Scott's like, why don't you mail order it? I'm like, they don't do mail order. I have to go to Walmart. And every time I go in, I'm like, I always see something. Every time I go in, I always see something that I'm like kind of traumatized by. Anyway,
Okay.
I wish we had the Walmart like you, Chelsea.
So I'm just going to end on this. When I first moved here, one time I was shopping. This is when Steve was on tour all the time, so he wasn't here. And so I was shopping at Walmart and he called me and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm in the best mood ever. And he's like, okay, like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at Walmart. And he's like, you hate Walmart. I said, not in Gulf Shores, Alabama. I don't hate Walmart. So it is a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Should we pivot to our topic?
Let's pivot to our topic.
Okay.
So why did we decide to talk about this? We get a lot of mixed messages in social media, professionals of just, this is a hard topic to talk about. And we as therapists, we're used to talking about this. This is our job to assess what we call risk. If someone is really having difficulties with what we call suicidal ideation. So the topic to us is pretty familiar. And because it's Suicide Awareness Month, we thought we would just get into some of the facts and also things that might be supportive. But why did we decide to do this? And how can we be helpful?
My thought is to normalize. I think it was Rebecca who brought up that September is Suicide Awareness Month. And I write also on Substack, and I had actually written about a time in my life where I was suicidal. And so those things kind of came together, and really it's about normalizing it and destigmatizing suicide, because when you're suicidal, it's very isolating, it's very taboo. And so that is how this came up.
Yeah, I would add too that I think people experience a lot of shame around this, and normalizing it is really important, and also validating that I think probably almost every single person has had a suicidal thought or self-harm thought at some point in their life. I would almost venture to guess that, to say that. And that's one thing I do anytime I meet with a client of mine and suicide comes up, or we're even talking about it. I like to normalize it from the very beginning, that it's important to talk about having these thoughts or feelings, and let's have a conversation about it instead of having shame and isolation and being afraid.
So let's start with some statistics, just so people have an awareness, because I think, at least from my experience with family, well, just people, friends, family, of even just discussing this, one of the myths is that by talking about it, it's going to give people ideas. Now, when we talk about suicide, it doesn't all of a sudden just plant an idea in someone's head, making a plan for suicide. Really, talking about it more, like you said, normalizes and gives it a discussion, gives it breathing room. So people out there who might be listening and thinking like, I'm really scared to talk to my friend or family member about it because maybe it gives them the idea and that might be what they do and it's my fault that I brought it up. That's actually not true. What we're doing is, by not talking about it, it lives in isolation. Anything that lives in isolation is what is going to take us down. So just some stats we got this from the CDC, and these are 2022 stats, but over 49,000 people died by suicide in 2022. One death by suicide every 11 minutes. Many adults think about suicide or attempt suicide. That's 13.2 million seriously thought about suicide, 3.8 million made a plan for suicide, and 1.6 million attempted suicide. Now, I kind of want to point out first that language is important. I use the phrase now of died by suicide. I think we need to kind of phase out committed suicide. That kind of comes with a connotation that they committed a crime, when this is just such a difficult thing that someone is experiencing, that was what they decided to do. Let's talk a little bit about making a plan and seriously thinking about it. Can you come at that from like a therapist perspective of when we are doing like an assessment? How do we differentiate thoughts versus making a plan? What does that mean to a therapist?
So when I do an intake, and I think this is true for most therapists, we're assessing risk. We're assessing everything. So most therapists are going to ask about substance use. They're going to ask about, even like caffeine, because that can affect mood. They're going to ask about thoughts of harming self, thoughts of harming others. They're going to ask about your background, your history. So there's a lot of gathering information because we see you as a whole person, as a whole human. We want to get all of you captured as much as we can in this assessment. And so the way that I describe, and there's limits of confidentiality, one of those being if you are going to seriously hurt yourself. And so the way that I explain it is I say, I'm going to ask if you're suicidal, do you have a plan? Do you have means? Do you have an intent? If you're suicidal and you're thinking about it, that's okay, because we can talk about that. We can figure out what's going on. We can see where we're at. If you have a plan, mean, and intent, then there would be a chance or a high probability that I would have to break confidentiality. So that's like just a confidentiality piece. With suicidal thoughts, that's an entire conversation, and really going back to what Rebecca said. So I want to explain how the brain works to normalize this. When the brain feels stuck, when it feels like it has no options, and you throw in some depression, the brain will go for the path of least resistance. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, well, we don't know what to do, so I'm just going to kill myself. The body physically gets relief because the brain's come up with this solution. And then we have that thought that's really distressing, I'm going to kill myself. If we believe that thought, then we will continue to reinforce that thought, that feeling, that thought we're feeling, and it can become a very vicious cycle. So really, the brain's trying to take the path of least resistance to figure out a solution. It comes up with a solution, it gives the body relief, and then we continue to reinforce that. That's a lot of the times what happens. So if we can say, wow, I'm having this thought, my brain is just taking the path of least resistance. I actually don't want to hurt myself. I'm really stuck right now. That sometimes is enough to alleviate that suicidal ideation. So I'm giving kind of a lot of context, but let me bump this back to the group and see what y'all think.
Yeah, Chelsea, I really liked how you shared how the brain is working and that it's like the path of least resistance, because humans like to problem solve all the time. And so we're problem solving ourselves as well. I think too, that leads me kind of to that there are kind of these different warning signs people get. Like, I feel like there's a continuum of symptoms or concerns, right? Where you might have some subtle signs of where maybe people, they might be feeling trapped or hopeless. You start to notice maybe some withdrawing, maybe some emotions they're having feel really unbearable. Like something, bad has happened at work and you're like, the stress of it, I've got to get out of here. Feeling like you're a burden on other people too. Like sometimes we are humans, we have big emotions, right? And then we kind of want to, this goes back to some other conversations we had, like we want to censor ourselves and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't share all these big emotions with other people. And because you feel like you're a burden on somebody else. The same thing when we're talking about like grief and loss too. People don't want to talk about it, but you're not being a burden on someone else when you are sharing about emotions, right? Because the other person can hold space for you, which we've also talked about, like how to do that. For me, I feel like there's this continuum of suicide thoughts or symptoms or behaviors that you can start very subtly. I think the subtle ones are what people miss all the time. It's the bigger ones, like now I'm giving away all my possessions. Now I am talking about a plan, Or now I'm getting my affairs in order. I'm creating a will. I am actually buying things to help me with my plan, right? Maybe even starting to be more reckless. Like I am intentionally speeding and doing things like that. Those, I feel like those are all more obvious things. I think people still miss that as well. They think, oh, they're just going through a hard time. But those are things that we really, as a community, need to start paying attention to and reaching out to somebody and just asking them, hey, are you okay? Do you need to talk about something?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what the fear is people don't know what to say. But you just even reaching out and talking and asking a question. I've had people in my life where I've just simply said, you have to ask this person, are you thinking of harming yourself? Because if you don't ask the question, you're not going to get the answer. I think that's such a hard question because you never want to think that that's going to happen. You never want to think that about a loved one. But the other thing that's important that came to mind, I want to educate around clinical depression, or even when someone is a diagnosis that really can come with suicidal ideation. There is just this misunderstanding that if someone dies by suicide, that is a selfish thing to do. And I really want people to understand that that is the only way someone was seeing an out from their pain. And if you can imagine someone is struggling so hard, this is not a light decision that someone just comes to. Someone is struggling so hard that is the only option that they see, and that they all often think that their life is going to be better if they are gone.
That's like that burden part, right?
Yes, that is exactly. That is a really, really hard place. Like, gosh, you must be hurting so much to be there. These are the things I want people, that the support systems around, if you see someone even kind of mildly struggling, to even ask. But a lot of the times it comes from those really dark spaces that if you see someone struggling, you think, well, maybe I just need to leave them alone, or they're just struggling, I'm just going to distance. But it's really the reaching out that is so pivotal.
Joy, I want to give a little reflection on that. People will say, oh, it's so selfish. And really, it's so hopeless. That individual felt so utterly hopeless that they, to Rebecca's point as well, they saw no way out. And sometimes that's hard to understand if you've never struggled with mental health before, if you've never had depression. I can share personally, when I was, 25, I think, years old, I was in grad school, maybe I was 26. I had untreated depression probably most of my life. So I have a history of trauma, a lot of early childhood grief and loss, lots of complicated attachment, all different types of things that I just kind of buckled up and I went through life and I looked fine. Like I look really happy and really fine and really good. And on the outside, it was like, wow, she's probably doing a great job. She holds down a couple jobs. She goes to grad school. I was married at the time. I looked very much put together. Inside, I just felt like something was really wrong with me. Like there was just something so utterly wrong with me. And that nagging feeling of that darkness of depression. Why am I crying all the time? Why am I so unmotivated? Why am I sleeping in my dog's bed with them? Because that's the only place I felt comfort. Why am I not eating? Like all of those things were happening, but on the outside, I looked great. That was a therapist that I had where I said, when I come and put together, I need you to call me out because I'm too done. And that means I'm really protecting myself. So when you think about asking these questions, that's where your support system really matters, is to be able to recognize like, oh, this person doesn't look like they're doing so good, or they have a lot of stress going on right now and they're like, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. So sometimes it's just that gentle check-in, like, how are you at? You have a lot going on right now. Like just a little bit of normalizing it. And I think that's why this comes up so often in therapy, is because we're always checking in with how are things at, and we're kind of giving that mirror reflecting. You have all these stressors going on. There's all these things. It's normalizing the human experience. And of course, you're in this dark place. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you want to hurt yourself. It just means you're stuck.
I'm going to post the link to the Substack post that you did because it was just so amazing and honest. And I'm so glad that you shared that. It's something we talked about at the beginning, where sharing some of your darkest emotions, or even just big emotions, is what helps because we all have them, but we think that we're alone in that. So thank you for sharing.
I would say the truth sets you free. And so just saying, and my therapist did tell me that. He said, if you don't want to feel like this anymore, you need to stop faking it. And that was horrible to think. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, when the grocery clerk asks you how you are, you don't have to say great and do a fake smile. He said, your face doesn't match what's going on the inside. I was like, wow, why won't my face stop smiling? He's like, because you've been trained to make everybody feel comfortable around you. So again, therapy to me changed my life. I do think it would be helpful too to kind of go into those protective factors. Like, what are the reasons why people have these thoughts and continue to work on themselves when it's so hard and it's so dark?
I feel like ultimately when people decide to go to live on and to seek help, or someone gets them to help and then they do work to overcome these suicidal thoughts, I think ultimately we all as humans have this desire to survive. We've talked about it before, that we're human beings want to keep living. Like every animal wants to live, right? It's just sometimes it's so hard and our brains are like hijacking us and saying, well, here's the solution. And this is a way for you to get out, because we all want to avoid pain. What keeps us here when we are having suicidal thoughts, or even as far as having a plan or an attempt that we failed at, or we didn't actually go through with it. I don't want to say fail because I hate that term, but this is an example of sometimes clinicians even use wrong terminology at different times, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Because we can't be perfect, but we're all trying every day to be the best that we can. But what are those things that keep us tethered here? Is it maybe there's some family that you feel really connected to. These would be what we call protective factors, or it's my fur baby, or my my pet, whatever it is that you feel connected to, and you're like, oh, I am that person that keeps this animal alive, right? That helps people. Music, interest, hobbies, things that fill you with love and light. I think that's what keep people here. And recognizing that there's maybe much more to life than you really think there is in that moment of darkness.
Yeah.
Hold on, Rebecca, can you go back really quick? What's coming up for you right now? I'm calling Rebecca out a little bit because you're so human and so vulnerable right now. Do you want to share what's coming up for you?
I wasn't planning on sharing, but I think it's important. Yeah, I think when I was just thinking about what keeps people here, I was thinking about it for myself. I'm getting emotional about it because there's so much shame and guilt associated with it. But when I was 19 years old, I actually had a plan and went through with it. And, I was like, I remember I took like a whole bottle of Tylenol, and then I laid back down and I was like waiting for it to kick in. And then I was like, this isn't happening. Like, this should happen. So I went back to the medicine cabinet and rummaged through and found all this cold medication, like some Sudafeds, whatever. Took that stuff, went back to lay down. I remember this was like in the morning too. And I took it and waited for it to kick in, and it didn't. And then I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? So I woke my roommate up and asked her to take me to the ER. So, there's I can share more, but this isn't about me. But yeah, I think that's why, because I was thinking about it for myself. Like, why did I change my mind?
Rebecca, I love you. Number one.
I love you so much.
And number two, I think, one, I appreciate your vulnerability more than I think most people, probably more than you'll ever know. But that, when I was writing the Substack the other day, I was thinking about young people in particular. When you're 19, like, you don't even know what the rest of the world's going to be like. You have our brains aren't even fully developed until we're 23, but we look at those hopelessness, that dark hole, and it's the mirror of how brutal and how dark depression is and how lonely depression is. And I think, if we can think about that from a humanistic lens, I really appreciate you sharing. And I do, just think that it's so helpful to understand that like we all have this darkness that can come up, and then the shame overtakes what the truth is. And the truth is that to be a little more compassionate to ourselves, to be a little bit kinder, to be a little less fucking judgmental of everybody's stupid judgments that we hear of everything that are just our own insecurities, and think, wow, life is really hard for a lot of people. How do we connect and how do we show up and just be a little more gentle? That's what I take from that.
You guys amaze me. Thank you for sharing that, Rebecca. I know it's not easy to talk about. And same, Chelsea, with writing that you did. And I'm just so grateful that you had that strength to move forward and move past that hard time in your life, and support. I know it's not just strength. I don't want to give the idea that like you're not strong if you don't make it. You know what I'm saying? But like, just that clearly was a hard time in your life that you had to go through.
And if people are thinking about hurting themselves, like maybe this could be a testimony. This has been, Rebecca, 30 years ago?
Yeah, 30 years.
Okay, so 30 years ago. And if we didn't have Rebecca here, our worlds would not be as good. 1000%. There's probably hundreds of thousands of people whose world is better because of Rebecca. But when you're 19, you don't know.
Especially the TSA. Oh. Especially the TSA.
What can I say?
I mean, I think that's some of the things we don't know how fleeting life can be.
Yeah.
We have no idea how fleeting life can be. Yeah. And if we could just look forward and know there is hope. And I would say that's a protective factor. When I'm assessing somebody, what hope do they have for the future? Are they hoping they can make it through? Are they seeing any, like, as a therapist, we can help to find some of those, somebody posted the other, like glimmers, like these glimmering moments of like, what are the things that we can move towards? But you can do that as a friend to your friend, not like toxic positivity, but like, I love you and the world needs you and I need you. And how do we continue to support and love one another?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't intending on sharing that. And obviously, there's a lot more to that story that probably would help some other people. But I think it was talking about just the protective factors and what keeps you here, that it's a real darkness for people. And you don't think of those things because what you do think is they will be better off without me, that nobody's going to miss you because you feel so isolated and small anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say, obviously, I've lived 30 years longer, and I think about it all the time that, gosh, I could not be here, actually, and what would I have missed? So I think, if you are in that space, it's a really difficult place to be, but you think people are going to be better off, but they're not. So it's really important that you do talk to somebody. I remember even using some resources and reaching out prior to my attempt. But, I think we're in a different world than we were 30 years ago, too, for me. So there's a lot more help, more available. It's more visible. And please reach out to somebody if you are feeling that, you want to end it, that you want to kill yourself. And I would say, too, to listeners out there, like, let's not be afraid to say, do you want to kill yourself? We want to dance around it and say, do you want to harm yourself? Do you want to hurt yourself? Let's talk about what it is. It's killing yourself. So is that what you want to do? Let's just, that's what's recommended. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say what it is to people.
Say the words. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's what's going on. It's not about, I want to harm myself. It's, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah. And destigmatize it. It's okay that sometimes you feel like you don't want to be here anymore. Life is hard.
Life is hard.
And
being
that's
human
okay.
is really hard.
But there are so many other choices that we can help assist, handhold, like holding someone's hand through the hardness. I was writing about a dance with grief. Actually, that's this week on Friday. And I was saying, there is no light without the dark. You have to dance with the darkness to get to the light. Sometimes it's helpful, a lot of the times mostly, to just know that there's somebody there in the dark with you that can help you through, whether it's an animal, whether it's a loved one, whether it's just the lady at Walmart who's talking about underwear in the parking lot. That human connection matters.
Human connection does matter.
It does matter.
Oh, it matters.
And let's do another reminder, Chelsea, about the brain making the decision, because we have to know that is your brain thinking, okay, I have this decision, we have a solution, that is your brain trying to cope with those thoughts and feelings. But to just kind of keep moving forward and reaching out, we use what's called a safety plan, where we kind of come up with tools and things that you're going to turn to. But even if you're not like in a space to reach out to someone right at that moment, just even knowing that is your brain trying to come up with a solution so that you can feel some sort of relief.
That's right. And what are your reasons then for living? So when you hit that uncertainty, all you can say, my brain is feeling really stuck right now. My circumstances are really hard right now. What are my reasons? A reason can be like, I absolutely love my morning coffee. I love the beach. I love the outdoors. I love my kids. I love my husband. I love my animals. What are the reasons what am I hoping is going to be different when I get through the darkness? Because you are going to get through the darkness. Depression is so treatable. It is so treatable. And I'm so grateful that we're in a day and age where kids are talking about mental health, where people are making mental health accessible. They're putting stuff out there on social media. We have 988. You can text 988 and literally get help immediately. I was looking up some YouTube videos on suicide actually this morning, and YouTube with every video had a 988 you could click right there before the video even came up. I was wanting to find some of the, see if there was any new research for 2024. And it's so treatable, and it's normal to feel stuck. We want to just be able to get through the darkness, to get through the other side. And we have to remind the brain it's normal and it's not actually true. And I worked in psych for 4.5 years. I was a first responder. I'd go to hospitals to assess people, danger to self, danger to others, psychosis, whatever. Most people who had attempts and were like, basically you get committed to a psych hospital. Those people they didn't actually want to die. They were so relieved that it didn't work. Most people were so relieved. And I would say the only difference between me and you is that I know more. I know differently than you do. I have the education, I have the insight, and I get it. And so we want to help people get it and normalize and destigmatize, because you all matter. You are worthy. The simple fact that we're humans means that you're worthy. You're worthy of living a really amazing life.
I'll end with this too, as we're wrapping up, that we can say all these things, but I understand when someone has very severe clinical depression, that is just kind of like in one ear out the other sometimes. But you can get help, therapy, medication, psychiatry. That is there for you. That is a tool. And I think some people, at least patients that I've treated, are like, well, I'm a failure if I can't do this on my own. They think that clinical depression is somehow, they just can kind of push their way through it. And that's just not the case. The other piece that I really want to bring up is if you have a family member that is dealing with really anything related to what we're talking about today, but if there is a diagnosis that that really kind of exacerbates these thoughts, you can make this the environment safe, meaning taking the protective factors would be taking away any means in the house, making sure all medications are locked up. Like that is a really important piece to know about a family member, is please be aware of taking away all the means and talk to them if they are thinking of killing themselves. What is your plan? And have you thought about the plan of how you would do it? Because that kind of also gives you something to work with as well. Now, obviously, you want to take away all means if that's available to them in the house, in their environment. But that's a really important conversation to have as a family or as a friend, so that you can continue to check in on that piece. Because if you're not asking those follow-up questions, then we can do everything we can under the sun. Ultimately, like, you never want to kind of blame yourself for if something were to happen, but that's a step that you can also have that conversation.
I would add also to that, thank you, Joy, that there are several apps that you can get on your phone for safety plans and for assistance. So one of the best ones is the Stanley Brown Safety Plan app. It takes you like through the six steps of a safety plan, on writing down like what your internal coping strategies are, who's in your support system. If you click on the emergency page, it has you can call 911 or call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which is the 988 number. Then it goes into like contact numbers that you can put in here. And then it gives you like an overview of like exactly what you need to do. So those apps do exist for yourself or for your family members, friends, anybody that might need that. I suggest maybe getting that on your phone too.
Rebecca, that's a
wonderful.
That's a great resource. And just an ending thought. We're not meant to do everything on our own. Human beings are social. We're meant to connect with other human beings. So please don't ever feel, going back to what Joy's, that you're supposed to do life on your own and just buckle up and get through. We are meant to lean in and to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most brave, vulnerable things you can do is share how you really are feeling with another human being. Allow yourself to lean in, because the leaning in is it's what makes life the most beautiful, is leaning in.
We're not meant to do this alone. This is why we have the Laugh Cry Club, because we want to normalize talking about these things. And if you are struggling with anything, really, just know that your whole life you have been given a deck of cards that, we really weren't able to choose all the cards that we were given. I hate to be like the cliche. It's not like it's how you play them, but I really am saying, like, sometimes you're like, I didn't sign up for this. It's not your fault if things happen to you, or that, the family that you were born into didn't treat you the best. Like, all of these things they made up who you are, and you matter, and that we are all struggling with something. So no, you're not alone. We're so glad you're here. We're so grateful for the Laugh Cry Club. And I just love you both so much. I'm so grateful for what you've shared today. I know it is so hard to be vulnerable. Sometimes when you hang up off of a podcast like this, you feel like a vulnerability hangover, but just know that you're really, really changing people's lives.
And I'm going to propose that we end taking a beat, taking a breath, because this was a lot. So
Yes.
We're going to do 2 breaths. We're going to do in for 5, hold for 5, out for 7 to calm the nervous system. We're trying to bring our energy down. So we're going to breathe in, hold it, out for 7. One more time. In for 5. Hold for 5. Out for 7.
Thank you, Bella.
Thank you so much for that. I needed that.
Me too.
Oh, you guys are the best. Thank
Love
you.
Thanks,
y'all.
everybody.
You can find us on the socials at Laugh Cry Club. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Email us laughcryclub@gmail.com. And we love you so much. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
See ya.
That's life, baby.